Hello, podcasting people. Welcome to the Free Rotation podcast.
I don't like it.
Whatever. I don't give a shit.
Everyone just like that.
And we are back with my fellow peeps. Say hi, Chris.
Hello.
Say hi, Bobby.
Hi, the Delta variant comes from my butt.
At least it's not the Ligma variant. Hi, Angie.
Everyone just like that.
Hello.
And so we are here today, all very tired, but we're going to talk about deathbed confessions.
Dun dun dun.
It's very metal. It's my favorite metal band. But yeah,
That's Dashboard Confessional.
I thought that was the Death Cab or Cutie.
Yeah, one of the two.
they all have death in it. Anyways,
Pretty sure that was Dashboard.
Dashboard Confessional was not a metal band, though.
It's a band, though.
It's a band.
They're a band.
They're a band, but
His name was Steven Caraba, and he's a bitch. I like Dashboard Confessional, but he looks like he sells kombucha off the back of
He
his bike
does.
right now.
He looks slightly
And it makes me
crunchy.
sad.
He looks slightly
Yeah.
crunchy.
Like, he just looked like a normal dude when he was Dashboard Confessional, and now he looks like some kind of weird Seattle lesbian, and it makes me angry.
Kind of. I'm kind of turned on by that.
I mean, that is Bobby's type if you think about it.
Yeah.
That's definitely Bobby's type. So speaking of Seattle lesbians, what?
Best kind of lesbians. Lipstick lesbians.
Angie, why are you having an aneurysm? Are you good?
It's in full circle.
And it never does when. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, I was like listening to some podcasts, and they were talking about like people who died on their deathbeds and stuff like that. And
What
I was
just
like,
happens?
I think everyone dies on their deathbed.
I realized it as I said it, and I'm like, I'm a real fucking idiot. Anyways,
Otherwise, it would just be called a bed.
Or a confession.
Or just a confession.
whatever. Anyways, but what I was listening to was people who confessed to certain things, certain surprising murders, faked out crap, stuff that you would be like, hey, when I die, nobody's gonna give a shit because I'm dead. They can't do anything to me. And it was actually interesting because we started working on something at work, and we were talking about whether deathbed confessions could actually be considered hearsay. It is not, just FYI. But
So if I actually looked into this, if they admit it to a cop, it's legal. If they admit it to a nurse, it's just hearsay.
not in Georgia.
So that's what I was looking up earlier. There has to be someone that is associated with the law in the room when he says it, because otherwise it's just one person to another person.
Not the way it works here. It only if you can. There are arguments to be made that you can basically say it's an out. It's a whole thing. But we were talking about this. But this reason why I mention this is because one of my favorite deathbed confessions is literally a guy who made a deathbed confession and then did not die. So the guy's name was James Washington, and he lived in Nashville, and he was an inmate that was serving time on an unrelated thing. He was like literally nearly almost out of prison when this incident occurred. He ended up having a heart attack.
Oh.
And so he had called over a prison guard, and he had basically admitted to murdering this woman named Joyce Goodner back in 1995.
I was 2 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, maybe you knew her.
I was 2.
Well, you never know. Even though at the time of her death, he had been a suspect, there wasn't anything tying him to the murder himself. And this was like 17 years after the murder that he confesses to this murder. And there was never enough evidence to actually bring any sort of charges against the guy. Well, when you get a heart attack and you have somebody take you to the doctor, you end up recovering. And even though it was considered a fatal heart attack, he ended up living and ended up inevitably recanting his confession. The defense did claim it was a hearsay issue and that he thought he was dying. So, of course, you have to be able to prove that it was a statement that he made out of court without it being with the truth of the matter asserted. There's a whole thing about hearsay. But essentially, the judge basically found that it was not hearsay. And he was convicted on a 3-day trial and sentenced to an additional 51 years in prison.
Dumb bitch. Shouldn't say anything.
So this is my thing, is like, if you're dying, just maybe don't confess to anything.
Or get a priest.
I don't even think a priest matters. I mean, really, inevitably, if you're going to say, like, you're going to confess to something, why not just leave it like it is? Yeah. Unless you want to be famous after you die. So that was probably one of my favorite deathbed confessions.
I like it. I like dumbass going back to jail.
Well, and also he had brutally murdered this woman. So
I mean, it's not like he didn't deserve it, but
right. So it's just funny to think that if he had not even said anything, he would have just gotten away with it.
if it hadn't been for the meddling nurses.
Hey, I know. Thank you, medical people, for saving somebody's life. You basically gave him more time in prison. So that was the one that I was like super into. The other one that was a big popular, probably one of the bigger popular deathbed confessions is the confession regarding Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones. So he had, I don't know, unless you're like somebody who doesn't know who the Rolling Stones is, but
I don't.
you don't know who the Rolling Stones are?
No, it's just being a jackass.
Well, the Rolling Stones was a very popular band. If you don't know who they are, you can Google them. And so he actually was the one that gave the band its name. He's like a founding member of the Rolling Stones.
He was.
And he was pretty much instrumental in the early gigs of Rolling Stones.
He was like the rhythm guitarist, I think.
Yeah, he was pretty much like, he played multiple instruments, and he was kind of like the big showrunner of the Rolling Stones. But as most things happen with famous rock bands, he got into drugs and alcohol, which took over his life, and he ended up getting kicked out when he got a little aggro during a lot of these concerts and stuff like that. So after he basically gets booted out, he's about to go on an American tour with Rolling Stones. He's basically just kicked out, and about a month before he dies, he's basically done with the Rolling Stones. He's living in a farmhouse with this just a luxurious farmhouse with his outside pool. So a month later, after he's kicked out, he gets pulled out from the bottom of his pool. He has a faint pulse, but quickly dies. And the police initially rule it as an accident. However, there is a woman named Janet Lawson who was there the night when a man named by the name of Frank Thorogood comes into the kitchen where she was standing. I believe they were all working together. Frank Thorogood was basically a contractor who worked at Brian Jones's house.
Yeah, I think he was laying concrete out there.
Yeah,
and they were doing like a sidewalk.
Yeah,
and that's what he's out there doing.
Yeah, and there was a pretty tense relationship between the two of them.
Were they fucking?
No, he did not like. He thought he thought that Thorogood was kind of an asshole, and he didn't like him being there.
No, and he was not impressed with the work he was doing to laying the concrete in his house. So there was a lot of tension between the two of them. When Thorogood comes into the house, he basically, it seems shaken, and Janet Lawson asks, "Hey, what's going on?" And at that point, Thorogood is like, "Oh shit," and he runs out and dives into the pool. Doesn't say anything. He just literally comes in and then has this look on his face, and then dives out into the pool. In the police statements made, Lawson doesn't really know what's going on, but later she does state that the report that was made that she made to law enforcement was pretty much contradictory of anything she said. She didn't know what was going on, but she did believe that there was something going on with Frank Thorogood, but the police basically kind of covered it up. However, when she was diagnosed with cancer and was on her deathbed, she basically came out and said, "I'm 100% sure it was Frank Thorogood who did it." And even though for years after that, they believed it to be an accident, or it was reported to be an accident.
Well, they also think that Frank threatened her with also murdering her.
Yeah.
Right after it happened, I killed somebody famous, I will also murder you.
Right. And he got away, and I mean, he did get away with it.
Yeah.
So, this was a really botched investigation from the start of it. And the only witnesses there were Frank Thorogood and Janet Lawson, who didn't even actually witness it. All she saw was how Frank Thorogood reacted to questioning about what was going on with Brian Jones.
Yeah, it's also the 70s, so they're probably doing a bunch of drugs.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Again, that's why the cops ruled it an accident, was they knew that Brian was a drunk and liked to party. So they assumed he just fell in the pool and fucking died.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, at that point, he had already been kicked out of the Rolling Stones, a month before? And at that point, there was a lot of contention already going on with the way he was using alcohol and drugs. So it only made sense that a guy who's probably completely inebriated would drown in a pool.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with that circumstance, there would be no investigation as to whether he actually drowned or if he was pushed or if he was, held down in the water. So,
well, even then, you're talking in the early 70s. How good was forensic science?
Right.
And even if they did blood work, they'd be like, "Yeah, there was a lot of cocaine and alcohol in there."
Yeah.
The end, It's the perfect crime.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to prove me wrong.
Murder a druggie in a pool and no one can tell the difference.
I mean, even if somebody saw him, he could basically say, I was trying to save him and he'd already
he was
drowned.
thrashing because I was trying to help him.
Yeah, and that was it. We couldn't get him out of the water. One of my favorite deathbed confessions, though, is this one involving a woman named Geraldine Kelly. And it involves why you should not abuse your wife. That's a pretty good thing not to do.
Oh, I like this one. I know this one.
Yeah. So basically what occurs is that she was a woman who was her husband. They were residing in Ventura, California. She had a long history of being in a domestic violence relationship with her husband.
So a little backstory. They had just moved to Ventura, California because they lived in Illinois. Is that where she was?
Yeah.
He was Illinois.
So they moved out there because he liked to drink and was a drunk, her husband. And he was sure he was going to be brought up on charges in Illinois, so they took off.
Right.
To avoid being arrested.
He was he was exactly like the deadbeat father, deadbeat husband kind of individual.
They ended up moving like across country. They'd stop and work somewhere for a few weeks or a few months and then move farther down the road. So they end up in Ventura, California, working at a hotel.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is, you get sick of your shit. That's what happens. But initially, from the children's perspective, the husband ends up dying in a car crash. That's what is reported by Geraldine Kelly when they're kids.
Well, she tells the kids and the hotel management, because they work at a hotel in Ventura, where he's like the manager and she's like the cleaning lady / whatever, caretaker. She tells the management, hey, he had to go on a trip. He got hit by a car and died. She then calls the kids and tells them the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that's where everybody assumes, like, he got hit by a car and died.
Right. Nobody's asking questions.
Yeah,
right.
No one really cares because he's kind of an asshole.
Right. And this occurs in 1991. So at that point, after about a year afterwards, she ends up moving the family cross country from Ventura, California to Somerville, Massachusetts. Up until 2004, the story is that he has died of a car crash. Well, in 2004, Geraldine is actually dying of breast cancer and confesses that she actually shot her husband, stuck him in a freezer down in Ventura, California, and that's where he had been for...
It's better than that.
No, it's way better.
So she confesses to her daughter. She tells her daughter that he didn't get hit by a car. She had killed him because he was violent and she got tired of it, and she put a bullet in his brain. Mm-hmm. She then put his body in an ice box, one of those like freezers, a stand-up freezer.
Right.
And then the freezer is in Summer Hall with them because she has duct taped it when she moved from Ventura and had the movers move it all the way out there with her.
Yeah, she packed it in ice with some dry ice.
And then duct taped it and then shipped it out there with her.
Yeah.
After she dies.
It was in her house.
Yeah. After she dies, her daughter calls the cops. The cops come out there, open the freezer. There's his body with a .38 round still rattling around in his old mummified brain.
Yeah.
They find the gun in the house as well because she didn't get rid of it either. Mm-hmm. So, she just had his body the whole damn time. This has been 6 years.
How do you not get caught? You just don't do anything with it.
Yeah, you just keep it. I'm not going to bury it. Somebody might find it.
Well, and the funny part was it was the gunshot wound, but also the fact that he had tattoos on his mummified body that they were able to identify it was the dude who had been murdered. I'm
pretty sure someone tells you there's a dude I murdered in an icebox in my freezer, in my kitchen. And I open it up and there's a guy in there. I'm going to believe it's that guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there would be no other reason to, but it's just funny to think that back in 1991, she could just say, hey, you just died of a car crash. That was about it. And that when you're a real son of a bitch, who's going to really contest that?
He's probably such a loser he didn't file taxes. I'm sure the government's not looking at it.
They probably weren't. And again, he probably didn't make enough money for them to even question whether or not he was filing taxes with the kind of work they were doing. Mm-hmm. And also, it was 91. We think about it now like it's hard to disappear because there's a trail and cameras.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't a thing in the 90s.
No, and I mean, if you died of a fiery car crash and there was nothing left of your remains, who's going to look into it even more?
Even if there was, and they said they put you in a pauper's grave in bumfuck nowhere, Nevada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it's crazy to me. It just goes to show you, even though she may have felt guilty or whatever she felt about it, she did tell her daughter the truth, but... She was
They're gonna find him when she dies.
Yeah, I don't think it was guilt. I think it was like, they're probably gonna find their dad when I kill over.
You're gonna find a dead body in the freezer. It's your dad.
Well, what I'm thinking is she's so thug. She's like, I'm not gonna leave this here. I'm just gonna take it with us, and we'll just can you imagine having this duct tape freezer in your house, and you're looking at your mom and your dad?
I can't imagine it. Thought about it a lot.
What's in that?
I had a couple of people I'd put in a freezer.
Well, no. Like, as a kid, like, you're like, why do you still have a duct tape freezer in here? Oh, I just really like it. It's a nice little freezer. Just in case I decide I want to use it for some meats.
I never went in my mom's deep freezer.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody missed this dude at all.
No.
I don't think he was the kind of guy where people were like, let's go find out what happened to Bob. I don't think anybody gave two fucks.
No, and I mean, he really was kind of a true shithead by the standards of it. So it wasn't
and
like...
I bet she was defending herself. If I remember correctly, he was beating her, and
he did.
She waited, and then it's like, damn,
back
never
of the
doing
head.
that again.
Yeah, she caught him sleeping in the back of the head with a 38.
Well, you guys said name Bob. That's my name. Do you want me to be dead, Chris?
Shut up, Bobby.
Anybody by the name of Bobby should just die.
Bobby, come look at the freezer instead of look at the
Look
flowers.
how deep it is.
Bobby, we just need to test and see how much meat can we put in here. Just get in there and see what happens.
I can pack a lot of meat.
But I was about to say, Bobby actually would be the one to crawl into a deep set freezer just to be like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Hey, Bobby, this stamping press, there's a little thing in the back. Can you go press the fucking button, please?
Yeah, you just tell them there's some cigarettes back there. And
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like,
Nah.
can you go get it in there?
Jesus.
No, Bobby.
But yeah, Geraldine's one of my favorites because that one was...
Well, and it's like, that's
It's just so nice.
Well, it's perfect, like, story of revenge. It's like, she was abused, she murdered her husband, and got away with it.
And moved the body.
Yeah, and successfully
part.
moved the body afterward.
You were going to skip the best part where she packs
No,
it up and
it was
takes it
toward
with
the
her.
end of it. I was trying to build up into, like, where the body was found, but, we can get to that part, but it was pretty good.
It was in her house.
It was in her house It was in the house the entire time.
They're calling from inside the house.
Well, and so to me, there are some too that you're just like, you will never know the truth as to whether it was an actual deathbed confession because there's nothing tying it to that person. And one of the biggest examples is Margaret Gibson. And she wasn't even considered a prime suspect in the slaying of Hollywood director William Desmond Taylor. This was back in the 20s. But in her final moments, she had asked for a priest and confessed to slaying him. And she had been a former actor, but she had been mostly working as a prostitute at the point in which this whole incident occurs.
Hollywood.
The good old Hollywood days.
Sex work is work.
Hey, there was one point where she was working at a brothel and they broke in, the police came in trying to break it up, and she's like, I'm researching my movie part, kind of thing. They're like, no, you're prostituting yourself. But she had previously worked with Taylor in 2010, but after he had passed away, there was no connection to him.
1910.
Okay.
You said 2010.
1910. I was like, holy crap, what did I say? 1910.
You silly bean.
It's like over 110 years old at this point. It's hard to keep up. There were a lot of suspects involved in this case. They never solved it. There was Taylor's friend and possible lover, Mabel Norman, a young woman in love with Taylor by the name of Mary Miles Minter, and Taylor's former valet, Edward Sands. But he had been slain in early February of 1922. I caught myself that time.
Proud of you.
There were no witnesses, and the only person to see him alive was Norman. She had basically gotten in her car, thrown a kiss goodbye to him, and minutes later he was murdered based on the time in which they had decided that he had been killed. 1910 or 1920, there's not a lot of forensic evidence to go over what's going on, but he's not found until later, and she was the last person that had been known to been seen with him. Norman was known to have a substance abuse habit, and there were theories that Taylor's attempts to clean her up may have been the motive. But when police and there was different connections. So Mentor was that they had found love notes from Mentor as well as a nightgown, and later discovered she had once tried to end her life with a gun that resembled the one that was used on Taylor. The investigation in Taylor revealed that Sands had been stealing money from him, and authorities had discovered another suspect, which was Mentor's mother, Charlotte Shelby, and she had said she had been opposed to any relationship. But there was no motive for Gibson having slain him, and the case had remained unsolved. And even when she confessed, she was going by the name of Pat Lewis. And during her time in Hollywood, she had been in trouble with the law, but there was literally nothing else connecting her to this murder. She had been in an ancillary relationship with all of these people who were suspects, and that she had worked. But other than that, that's the only thing connecting her to it. So she wasn't even considered a suspect in the initial case.
Fair enough.
So it's it begs the question, is it are you just going crazy? and you're talking about like killing yourself, or I'm not talking about, or you're like having these ideas that you have done something, or do you know something? That was a big theory too, is that somebody had told her that they had killed him and that she had like lived with the guilt of not saying anything ever.
All I can think of is 1920s and drug addiction. I keep thinking Mabel picked up opium at the apothecaries. I in my brain over and over.
Well, and it's like he was known for picking up these sort of like, what's the word, like vagrant types of people and trying to clean up their lives because of drugs and all of that stuff.
He was fucking them.
I'm sure he was. I mean, it was a little bit like a little loosey-goosey time, but you didn't talk about those.
You still don't fuck a hobo, though. That's weird.
You don't talk about those things back in the day, Bobby.
Why not?
Well, you just don't.
Look at the gams on that one.
She showed her ankle. Oh, my God.
I'm just saying, flappers are hot.
Well, okay.
They are. They get short hair and shit. It's hot.
You really do, like, date yourself for what you are looking for, and maybe you should have been born in 1922.
Or just gay.
I'm not gay.
I realize that. I'm saying you should have been.
Oh, guarantee my dating life would be phenomenal.
Yeah. Well,
I wish.
I bet it'd be the same, but with
no,
dudes.
I could probably sex with me and dick.
I'm not saying that the sex part.
Let me try it out on you,
same.
Chris. We'll see how good my dick suck is.
I'm out. I'm out, thanks.
I think your wife would be okay with it.
Nope.
She probably would be.
She would not. No one's allowed to touch His Highness except for her.
Can I touch your butt?
Nope. No one can touch the twins either.
I'm gonna try and touch her boobs. It's weird.
Any hoosel.
Okay.
It was his fault this time.
Well, okay. Speaking of Loch Ness monsters, I don't freaking know.
Oh, that's a really good segue for mine.
Oh, I was about to say, this was the one that I was like, oh, this is sad because I did not know this had happened. Is that the original guy who had photographed, quote unquote, the Loch Ness monster on his deathbed, did confess that it was a faked picture.
Yep, 90 years old, Christian Sperling. He's like, yeah, he had claimed that he'd taken this picture while he was going down the aisles and stuff.
Right.
And it's snapped a quick picture. I'm like, hey, this is back in the day. No way you took a quick picture like that.
Well, and it is interesting to think that, like, he was like, just so happens to be going down, and he's like, let me just get angled right so I can get this real good picture of this, like, little Nessie monster living in the loch. And
all it was just a head taped to a little submarine.
Yeah, it was really sad.
Yeah, it's like what's that famous Bigfoot footage?
I know it's called something specific. I'm not.
Patterson?
Yeah, that's called, that famous Bigfoot footage, the one where it's walking.
The Patterson.
Yeah,
the Patterson video.
It's two names, Patterson Fry or Gimbal or.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the gimbal. That sounds right, but people say it's similar to that, where that's probably fake too.
It's not the gimbal. The gimbal's a UFO. It's the Patterson. God, I can't remember the second guy's name. That's gonna drive me crazy now. But the first guy's name is Patterson.
Well, and the thing was, like, the guy who, with the Loch Ness monster, it was called the surgeon's photo forever because the guy never wanted to claim any credit for the picture. Surprisingly so, I wonder why. But later, it wasn't until the 1990s that he came out and said who he was.
Yep.
And there were skeptics throughout the entire time this photo was first captured that this wasn't a real thing. Did you find it?
Patterson Gimlin.
That's close.
Yeah, I was like, gimbal, but that's a UFO. Gimbal, not right.
Fair.
It is also interesting because people legitimately, up until it was debunked by the guy, were, supportive of the fact that this was a real picture. There were people who had gone online and tried to show that you couldn't not gone online, but showed that you couldn't have photoshopped it. There was no real way of him having done a manipulation of the image of any sort. But when he gets to the end of his life, he does state that he did fake the picture with his stepfather and a Loch Ness monster enthusiast by the name of Marmaduke Weatherall.
Jesus
I was about
Christ.
to say, that's a badass name. As well as him, and that he had sent the toy submarine with an animal head into the loch. And the picture, here's the thing: you could still go to those places and where the loch is located and buy those pictures like it's a real legit picture.
It's famous.
Wasn't Marmaduke a dog?
Yeah, it's a cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know those Scottish people in their names, Marmaduke.
Do we have another example?
It's gotta be at least
Benedict.
I think that's English.
Oh, yeah, I guess that is. I'm trying to think of another Scottish name.
Potato.
Heathcliff.
Heathcliff is a Scottish name.
And it's a cat. It's
And
a
a
cartoon cat. Yeah.
There's also Mr. Huxtable.
Mr.
Oh, he's black.
He was. He's out of jail now, by the way.
Is he really?
Oh, I know. Yeah, his they overturned his conviction.
Is he part? Oh, is he part Irish?
No. Surprisingly, Bill Cosby less Irish than you might imagine.
I don't know.
What?
You can try 23andMe and figure it out.
It would be funny if he came back and he was like 60% English and we just didn't know it the entire
Yeah,
time.
but you were pudding pop dressed as a leprechaun.
my,
Like the charms have changed.
my wife got hers, and it's all white all the way across. There's nothing not white in there.
I need to do mine.
I'm not surprised in the slightest.
And the pale redheadedness of it.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You're East African. What the fuck?
She gets moonburn if it's the full moon outside.
Really?
Yeah, no kidding.
Did she really?
You have to have
I'm sure she would,
three
yeah.
different concrete formations for your ceiling so she doesn't get sunburned at all because the sun may possibly hit her.
She is very, very white.
Yeah.
Speaking of white, you had something written down there, Chris?
I do have a lot of things written down. So,
Doesn't look like a whole lot.
mostly just one. It's one
It's like a
story. I
paragraph.
wrote down all the high points. It keeps going, so I didn't forget them.
Yeah, there are a lot of really interesting
ones.
stories, but
I picked my favorite that was not,
those famous ones.
well, the one with the lady and the Miss Geraldine.
Yeah.
That was actually my favorite because she kept the fucking body the whole time.
And kept her mouth fucking shut.
I know that is a woman.
Like,
That's
That's the thing.
She's
That's
like,
definitely.
I miss Summerhall. I'm going back. You're coming too, motherfucker.
I was
fuck you,
I was,
abusive bitch.
well, I was about to say it's funny because it's she was so good. I think she was just so hard life at that point that she's just fuck
And
it.
she was such a nice person.
Yeah.
Everyone was shocked because she was genuinely nice.
Yeah, but there comes a point, even if you're nice,
Yeah.
There's a breaking point.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids all knew he was an asshole. Everybody hated him.
Yeah.
Nobody cared.
And she would get drunk sometimes when the kids weren't home and she just opened the fridge and just start screaming at him. Fuck you, motherfucker.
She probably never had a problem with him because the kids were adults by the time this happened. But, there's the story of the gentleman that lived in that town that the entire town saw somebody murder and no one told.
He's a piece. We should episode that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
The entire town watched him get murdered and no one will say a word.
That is also the premise of Murder on the Oriental Express is everybody took a shot at this guy just so nobody could say they were the one that actually killed him.
Yeah, well, that's the idea of firing squads.
Yeah.
You line up 7 people with 1 bullet and which one
and
shot
you don't
him.
have the guilt of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't my bullet.
Yep. I think
You
these
know
people
what?
all know who did it and they're all pretty okay with that guy.
I was about to say if you're dressed as a stormtrooper, you definitely didn't hit.
So, anyway, 1986, Australia. There's a lady named Sharon Phillips. She works in a little shop in a suburb of Brisbane. She was work one day. It was a Saturday. She leaves work. She gets off at 3 in the afternoon, goes to one of her friend's house, picks her up. They go into Brisbane to go do some shopping. They hang out all day, go get dinner. They're just ladies that aren't at work. They're just hanging out. They're in their she's early 20s, 22.
Oh, she's hot.
She was sure, I guess. She was attractive. Any hoosel. She drops her friends off. They get done shopping, get done with dinner. Her and her friend go back to their house. It's about 10:30. She drops her friend off. She turns around to go home. She runs out of gas about 6 miles away from her house.
That's not good.
She gets out of her car, walks up the road. There's an Australian army barrack not far away. She walks up to it and says, "Hey, can I use your phone to call my boyfriend so he can come get me?" And they say, "No, you're not allowed on base. You're not in the military." That's kind of how this works. So she leaves the army barracks, walks a little bit farther, goes to a gas station. There's a gas station that has a payphone. She uses the payphone. She calls her boyfriend. At this point, it's 11:15. By the time she gets there to call him, she's like, "Hey, I'm out of gas. Can you come get me?" Tells him where she's at. He's like, "Sure, I'll come get you." He takes off, goes to get her, gets a flat tire on the way to go get her. He's changing his tire. In the meantime, while he's changing a tire and he's not there because she's expecting him, she calls his house again and his roommate picks up. Says, "Oh no, he's already on the way." She hangs up, waiting on him. He gets there about 20 minutes later. He sees her car. She's not anywhere in sight. Can't find her. He looks around for a little while, assumes that she has got another ride. And
Yeah, because that's how I just assume it go.
It's 86. What are you going to do?
Yeah, fucking
Right.
cell phones.
There's nothing else he can do. It's midnight. There's no one around.
Yeah.
She's gone. He knows she was there and she's not anymore. Assumes somebody else came and got her. He goes home. Next day, he tries to call her. Nobody answers. He calls her parents. They don't know where she's at. They go to the filling station, the gas station. Nobody's seen her. They pick up her car and take it home and fill it up with gas. They go to her apartment and start looking for clues as to where she's gone, if she knew somebody that would come get her. Nobody finds anything. She's just gone. Forever. Years later, her mother and her father, her mother is depressed and takes a bunch of pills and is kind of not feeling great and starts hinting that the father did something.
Oh, shit.
His name was Bob Phillips.
God damn it.
She starts hinting that Sharon, at some point before she called her boyfriend, he called her dad to come get her. The dad got there. Something happened. Her dad apparently had a temper, and he would have been mad that she had run out of gas. And the mom starts hinting that maybe he got violent when he got there, killed her, and hid the body.
Classy.
The dad is very ill. He's sick. He's dying. He's on his deathbed. Sharon has a brother and a sister who, when this kind of breaks, it's kind of big news that the mom is saying that the dad killed him. So it makes like the news. So the reporters go talk to the brother and sister, and they start saying they think the dad had something to do with it. Like, his story he told us about where he was that night doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. We think he might have had something to do with her disappearance. Bob's on his deathbed. The cops go interview him on his deathbed, ask him, where can they find Sharon? He doesn't say anything for a while. Finally he tells them to go check the brush near the house where they used to live, like where it's grown up. They get out there with excavators, start digging it up, and find nothing. Flat out nothing. While this makes the news, a gentleman whose name is Ian Seeley sees it and calls in. Calls the cops, says he's called Crime Stoppers a few times because he knows what happened to her. At the filling station, where she stopped to get gas, or where she went to go get gas or call her dad or whatever, his dad, whose name was Raymond Moldeville, it's hard to, Australian accents are hard.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was a taxi driver there. His dad was also a violent drunk and, according to Ian, a serial rapist and murderer.
Holy shit.
He was on Australian 60 Minutes not that long ago.
Yeah. So apparently, the story Ian tells is that night when Sharon went missing, her dad was at that filling station because that's where he hung out because he was a taxi driver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She wanders up. Something happens. He's not sure exactly what happens. It gets to be 12:15. His dad, Raymond, they don't drive the taxi back and forth. It stays at the filling station unless he's working. Ian goes to pick up his dad. Ian drives to the gas station, gets out of the car. His dad tells him, stay right here. Gets in Ian's car, pulls it around the back of the filling station, and he's back there for a minute. And he tells him, hey, look out for cops, which is a weird thing to say when nothing's going on, at 12:15, 12:30 at night. Well, apparently a cop does drive by, starts talking to Ian. Ian doesn't say, nothing's up. They just kind of, hey, what's going on? He's like, hey, I'm here picking up my dad. He's a taxi driver. Cop's like, okay. Gets in his car and leaves. Well, as soon as the cop leaves, Ian says he hears two trunks shut. Just thunk, thunk. 2 minutes later, his dad comes driving around the front, picks him up, gets in the car and goes. While they're driving, Ian says he hears something like thudding around in the trunk. Mm-mm. He asks his dad what it is. His dad says nothing and just turns up the radio to drown his questions. They get home. His dad, Mr. Raymond, sends Ian in the house, which Ian complies with, just goes inside. He's a 19-year-old kid. Goes inside. He says his dad's outside for about an hour and a half. And this is at, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Then comes in. Doesn't think anything of it. The end. 2 days later, Ian goes outside, or he's outside doing something, opens his trunk, and he finds her purse and her shoes. Miss Sharon's purse and shoes in the trunk. He goes inside, tells his dad, he's like, hey, there's a lady's purse and shoes in my car. Supposedly his dad slaps him, takes the keys, gets in the car, and leaves. A week after she had went missing, Miss Sharon, they find her purse and shoes in a ditch near where her car was, like just thrown off in the ditch. So the cops start looking into this. Raymond's already dead by this point, and they conclude that, yeah, he probably did actually kill her and hide the body somewhere, and they're not sure where. That's kind of the end of this, is just that dude killed her.
Right.
So we have like a weird false deathbed confession from the dad, who actually didn't do anything
right.
and was never there. This random dude who Ian had called Australian Crime Stoppers, which is like, I guess they're 911 or whatever.
Yeah.
6 times before the news went to the kids and was like, I think I know what happened to her. And they just wouldn't follow up on it. After they finally take him seriously, he starts saying that his dad is like a mob hitman and just has committed a litany of crimes and rapes over the years, which none of them can be substantiated. And some of the murders he say happened are of people that never existed in Australia.
Okay.
So they think the theory is that he got kind of famous off being able to solve this murder that his dad did and come out with it, that he's trying to fabricate more so that he could, be famous and sell books and stuff. And it's like, dude, just what are you doing? You're making her murder look worse.
Yeah.
And less serious because you're a jackass. Just shut up.
People suck.
That's just nuts because it came off of a deathbed confession that wasn't even a real deathbed confession.
Yeah, and the fact that the mom and both kids thought he did it. And he's like, I wasn't. He had told them, the dad had told them that he wasn't anywhere near where she was at that night. He was in another town 500 miles away picking up a truck.
That is so crazy.
That'd make a really good miniseries.
It's just,
that's the twist.
Yeah, it's just so many twists and turns in that one. When I was learning about it, I'm like, so that, okay, the kids think he did it, the mom think he did it, he admitted to doing it. There's nothing there.
Yeah, like the whole build up to the climax is you find the body and there's nothing there.
I think he was just pissed at his whole family for thinking he killed his daughter. And he's like, yeah, fuck it. Waste your time. I don't care. Yeah. Like, the whole family's turned on me. What do I care what you people think?
I was about to say, that would make a lot of sense, too, in some circumstances. Like, I would have a big fuck you, too, if I'm on my deathbed. I'm like, you know what?
I think he was over it.
I'm going to tell you that such and such was murdered. I did it. Killed 3 people. There's where their bodies are. Good luck. Fuck you. I'm dead. Like, what are you going to do? You can't say I made a false report of a crime. I'm dead.
But that was the thing, is Ian knew parts of the crime that no one else knew.
Right.
Like what part, like her shoes and purse, were the pieces that were found. All the Australian media said was they found some of her clothes. They never said what it was.
Right.
He specifically said, I found her shoes and purse in the back of the car.
Well, and it would have been even more, like, to me, even, like, the topping on the, like, the cherry on the whole top of it would have been if, like, it turned out, like, this person was like, no, I'm the one that actually did it. Fuck you. And it's like, surprise, I wasn't dying, bitch. It was all a trick.
Yeah, it was not. He really died. He really died with his entire family thinking he killed his daughter.
You gotta feel, like, real bad. I would feel, can you imagine?
The best part is the kids said that they didn't believe his story of where he was or whatever. The cops, like, it took us 2 minutes to look into where he was, and he was exactly where he said he was. And it's like, what? Who just turns on their family that fast?
Yeah. Your dad.
For murder.
He had to have been a real asshole for you to be like, yeah, he definitely murdered our sister.
I just don't. The story's so weird to me that, like, he gives a false deathbed confession, and the real killer is just already dead and didn't say shit. But his kid knew about it and had been trying to call 911 forever, and no one would take him seriously. They're just like, nah, your dad didn't do it. Shh.
Yeah. We know who actually did it.
Yeah, it's pretty sure it was his dad. And
I feel like somebody gets fired in that, under that circumstance.
There's so many weird things. So, like, the day after, so her parents report her missing the day after she goes missing that night, the boyfriend calls them. They report her missing that night at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Cops come out, kind of do a cursory glance. They can't find shit. The next day, it's like a tropical rainstorm. So if there were any tire tracks or footprints, they're just gone. Like, they can't find any of that. The boyfriend gets a flat tire on the way to go pick her up. Like, it's all these things in a row that just add up to her going missing.
Yeah, and the think about it. Like, he could have been literally, like, 5 minutes outside of when she was there, and then she was just gone.
Yeah.
Whew, that is scary. I don't know. Thank God for cell phones. I'm like, you find my phone. Find my phone. If I ever go missing.
Well, you're not showing Outback. You don't have a fucking signal anyway.
Yeah, find my kangaroo.
But there are a lot of deathbed confessions that I was looking at. There's the cop that framed a lot of Malcolm X's people.
Oh, yeah.
I think his name was, funnily enough, I think his name was King.
Wow.
I think, he flat out admitted to the police and the FBI working together to frame Malcolm X's people to arrest his bodyguard so that it was easier to assassinate him.
Yeah.
And
there's an entire movie, right, that was made about that entire thing that happened.
But he admitted to being a part of it, and literally there are people serving life sentences there are people that have died in prison on life sentences on falsified evidence that they made up so that they could get Malcolm X's bodyguards away from him.
Yeah.
So that he would be easier to assassinate. And yeah, that's horrible, but that's just kind of your average deathbed confession. I wanted something with a little pizzazz to it.
Well, this is why they probably, back to your story, why deathbed confessions are hearsay, because look at the guy who's like, yeah, you can find her body here, and it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Like, when you're dying...
Fuck it.
I'd say anything. You know what? Fuck all of you. Yeah, I murdered the piece of shit.
Yeah, when your whole family's turned on you and nothing you said they believe, and you tell them the truth, and they're like, nah, he killed her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, at that point, you're just like, you know what? Fuck him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's send them on a little ride for a while.
It's like, well, so many people have lied on their deathbeds, and the confessions weren't real. I mean, you can't take everything seriously.
Well, and that's sort of why, like for the one with the Taylor murder, was it a real deathbed confession, or was it like, this is my last claim to fame I'm gonna have is I murdered William Desmond Taylor, or
I have an opium addiction.
Exactly. But even on that point, like, let's say you really are dying from something serious, like, you could say anything that doesn't make any sense, and you can try and say
just to make people remember you when you're gone.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna give them something to think about.
I know what I'm gonna say.
I wish the one-armed man. Like,
I said for years, if something happens to me and I know I'm gonna die, I'm just gonna pick somebody's name out of the phone book and be like, John Smith did it, and just leave him that note and just fuck up his life for the next 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, you could say anything. There's no consequences for you.
Oh, see, that's a lot more dark. I was going to go with, I know where the Malaysia flight, blah, blah, blah is.
Nope, I'm going to blame somebody random, even if it doesn't look like a murder, just to fuck with that person for 6 months.
You need to ask them what happened.
Yeah.
And then just die.
No, I'm going to put specifically, Jane Smith killed me. And then they're going to go pick her up and be like, why'd you murder him?
Like, I don't even fucking know this
She'd
guy.
be like, who?
No, it'd be funny if she'd be like, you mean, John Doe? No! You murdered John Doe too?
No.
Like, no, I mean, who are you talking?
Oh my God, I didn't know.
Which body are you talking about, sirs?
Yeah, you could, like, accidentally solve a serial killer murder.
I may have killed him. I don't know. I've got.
Well, we have one in Atlanta right now, so that might help.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who killed you? Becky Terrible last name.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say
That's
it.
when I'm leaving. If I unexpectedly go.
Yeah, but they're already going to look at her anyways.
Yeah.
If I
She has
unexpectedly,
threatened my life so many times.
yeah, if I unexpectedly go, they're never going to look at her unless I write it down and tell them she did it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just being framed and I'm not even have a chance.
And you know what? I'd be like, yeah, she told me she was going to do it. She sure did.
Yeah, that's true friend. That's true homies right there. He's like piggybacking.
No, you know why?
Just right. It
Because
was
she didn't bring me a croissant that morning.
That one time I didn't bring you a
There's
croissant.
been so many times she hasn't brought you a croissant.
Exactly.
Becky poisoned me with an exotic toxin.
Selfish.
Talk to the doctor.
Yeah.
She knows who it was. And just leave it right there.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
like, I can just picture this, and Angie's like the true homie. Like, yeah, she totally did. What are you doing? I'm wingmanning his
She
confession.
told me she was going to do it.
Yeah, she told me everything.
How much fun would that be for 6 months? You get to be the
No,
prime
it wouldn't
suspect
be
in a
fun. I
murder?
would be like,
Disbarred?
you would be dead.
Just kidding. I had a mental break.
I know. It's like, and then like they find the note. They're like, once they figure out like your little cipher, and it's like, fucked with you.
It's like on somebody's Ring doorbell as plotting. Like,
Yeah, it's like lol, JK.
Little JK, it was
Chris
cancer.
is like bleeding out. Hey, you know what'd be funny? What? Man, I got you. What? Let's accuse Becky.
That's
sure.
my deathbed confession. I'm confessing on someone that did nothing.
Like, just how?
Well, you know what? I had some famous last words because we were doing last words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the same.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
just
must have
used,
missed the confession part.
No,
'cause I
no, convention's last word, it's all the same
His,
deal.
his last words were "check the brush by the house."
this
he
lady's
didn't
like,
actually confess.
I mean, people,
he just said,
I mean, they all just were like, I did it. The other guy was like, I faked it. Like, that's sort of a thing.
Oh, my favorite is Winston Churchill, and his last words were, "I'm bored with it all."
He was such a like crotchety old man.
He's a troll.
I mean, and that's the thing. He's like, I'm just done with it. Like, Winston Churchill was old when he was like 25. So, like, it makes sense.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was going to say I have my favorite last words ever.
Okay, what's that?
Did you do Bob Hope?
No.
So if you don't know and you're under 75 years old, Bob Hope was a comedian and he was pretty okay. But he was like an epic...
He was a troll, too.
Yeah, he was epic. So as he's dying, his wife asks him what he wants on his tombstone, and his final words on planet Earth are, surprise me. And it's like, yes, sir. That's how you go out a real comedian.
IDK.
My favorite of that was Steve Jobs. Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. It's his last fucking...
Yeah, and it's like, what? What?
Fucking...
Yeah, he's like, oh wow, oh wow.
He's
What do you see, Steve?
He's probably seen some DMT type shit.
So
Yeah.
I wonder, and this is just one of those things, my grandma, when she was dying, right before she passed, she said she could see a bunch of writing on the walls, but it was in a language she couldn't read.
Oh, God.
And
Oh,
it was,
Enochian.
it was something she had never seen. That's why I'm wondering if it's not angelic or Enochian.
Mm-hmm.
If, like, it just doesn't, like, coat the walls and whatever.
Well, my
Or if it's
dad's
like
final words, he was talking about how he no longer saw the men in tall hats in the corner and the big mouths, but he could see the women in white waiting on him.
Oh,
And he wasn't scared anymore.
interesting. They sent Daniel Day-Lewis to murder your dad.
Exactly.
And in Angels.
And so I'm sitting there was a rocking chair, and I was watching TV. It was, of course, like Andy Griffith and shit. He hadn't spoken in weeks. Like, he was really pretty much gone. And I look over, and he's staring at me. I was like, Daddy. And he was like, do you not see them in the corner? I'm like, no. It's like a cat staring in the corner. He's like, they're shadow men in tall hats with big mouths. And I'm like, I said, stop looking, Dad. Look the other way, for fuck's sake. Don't stare at them.
What if they see you?
He's like, they're staring at me and laughing. And I was like, maybe they're laughing at Andy Griffith. I don't know. I was like, just stop looking at them. So, like, I look a lot like my aunt and his sister. So he always called me Anna. And then he turned and he's like, Anna, how are you here in here? And I was just like,
Oh, no.
I was just like, I said, let's look at the women in the white. Let's look at the white people.
Wow.
Sounded worse than it was.
Stop looking at the black folk. Only the whites in this house.
I'm not the white folks. The other one, this is kind of
What?
sad
That's
because
Bill Cosby.
No, I don't think that. I think that was a minstrel voice. I don't think that was Bill Cosby.
I'm
yeah,
uncomfortable.
That was
yeah,
Al
a
Jolson.
little late, so we're running into some hormones. But like talking about Marie Antoinette, and this one to me is so sad because she was like 14 when
Yeah.
she was executed.
Yeah,
Very
people assume she's an
innocent.
old lady.
No, she was
so
little.
young. I truly believe when they said people have no bread, and she was like, "Oh, then they can eat cake." She didn't know what she was saying. She'd have no access to people on the streets. She went from one palace to the other.
I think that was part of that's the point, though. I don't think it was necessarily that she didn't understand. I think it was the point that she didn't understand that they just didn't
exactly.
have access to food.
Right. Well, when they're dragging her out and leading her up to the guillotine, she steps on the executioner's foot. And her last words, this is literally seconds before he lops her head off, is, "Pardon me, sir, I didn't mean to do it." Like,
No.
innocent to her, like who apologizes to the executioner holding up the bloody axe that had just killed her husband?
I would accidentally be that person on death row who'd step on the sheriff's leg and be like, "Oh, sorry, dude. I'm sorry."
Oh, I'm so
Oh
sorry.
my God, sorry. Injected.
Again, I don't think they were killing her specifically.
Mm-hmm.
They were killing the
Idea.
ideas of
Yeah,
the French
the
aristocracy.
ideas.
And the poor people were kind of fucked in France. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason their revolution coincided with ours a little bit, and it was
Mm-hmm.
theirs was a little. I say ours was bloody. Theirs was a little worse.
Yeah, a little worse. And then there's Nostradamus, who's like, "Hey, this time tomorrow, I'm gonna be dead. Continue as you were." And everybody's like, "What?"
Well, here's the thing, like, for prophets in general, the best guarantee that you're going to have is to predict your own death.
And he did. He was absolutely right. Of course, it kind of puts you on a time crunch if you're wrong. He's like, "Better take this fucking cyanide.
God damn it,
Because I didn't die like I thought I was."
I got to take that exotic poison I've been planning to give Chris this entire time.
Yeah.
Now, my favorite, I couldn't find the priest or pope who said it, but at the end of his life on his deathbed, he says, "We were wrong. We're wrong about everything." Dies. And he has this look of horror. And it's like,
The fuck
Like,
did you
you're praying, and
see?
he's like, we were wrong. We were wrong about everything.
Were we talking about Catholicism?
Yeah.
Were we talking about the laws? What were we doing?
Yeah, can you...
Can you, like, before you die, just come back and say it one more time?
Like, wait the fuck up. What?
A little more detail, please.
Yeah.
And then the saddest, and I'm paraphrasing this because I don't remember these off the top of my head. I just remember the idea. But Beethoven, his last words were, and thus, friends, the comedy is over. Which was so sad because, like, his whole life was just fucking tragic.
Yeah.
And it was so sad to get to the end of your life and be like, hey, comedy's over. No more laughing at Beethoven.
That's so sad.
The heartbroken deaf man.
Well, I think my last words would be ligma.
I'm sick of it. At least it's not mommy milkers.
You know,
Oh, you mean Daddy's Cummies?
Socrates' last words?
What?
I drank what?
You
Was
know-
it really though? Because
No.
that'd be funny.
No, it'd be great. He was not a comedian.
Yeah.
I am. It's a little different.
I was
There
about to
was
say.
somebody who, like, their last words was French fries, and then he died.
Listen, hey. I mean, do you know what Caesar's last words were, right?
Salad?
Well, they say it's et tu brute, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, though, was it? I mean, it was actually like, you jackass, and just passed out and died.
Well, I think it was one of his buddies. I think he actually called him like a braying donkey.
Yeah. He
Like
was,
legit, like, fuck you, you dick.
No, he did. Like, he...
Yeah.
Yeah, Shakespeare had a better way with words than most people do on their deathbed.
Well, fuck you, you dick doesn't follow
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
like, most
pentameter
people-
really
Ye
well.
old fuck you.
Most people portray it like et tu brute, but no, he was like, et tu brute? You fucking cunt.
But yeah, I
I
think
gave you every fucking thing.
I think it was actually like, I think he really did call him like a braying donkey or a braying ass.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I like it. I like your style.
Basically, like, I never fucking liked you anyway. Fuck you. Enjoy your fallen empire because it's not gonna... I think he said something about that. Well, Rome's dead.
He had a lot of words to say as he's dying with
No,
his little
well-
stabby stab.
Well, unless they hit your heart or lung,
Yeah.
it ain't quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing
Stabbing
is, it's
slow.
like, God damn it, I fucking missed so he's just sitting there listening to him bitch at him. You're a fucking donkey, you goddamn asshole. I might bleed out on you, but your sandals are all fucked up now.
Well, remember, a lot of people stabbed him.
Yeah.
13,
Like, yeah.
13, I think.
Because you couldn't be the only one not to.
Yeah, it was either all or none.
Yeah.
It's the Game of Thrones Jon Snow. Spoiler
Yeah.
if you haven't seen season 2 that came out 9 years ago, I guess.
Season 5.
The 3?
Are we talking about the Red Wedding?
No.
Or we're talking
No,
about Jon Snow getting
no,
stabbed?
No, the
That's
Red
season
Wedding
5.
is season 3.
It was season,
Yeah, season
5.
Okay.
Season 5, you got
I don't
stabby
know.
stab.
It's still like 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a while. Nobody actually, I mean, listen.
Remember, he's at the end of the thing at the wall, and they all
Yeah.
stabbed
Season
him.
6, I'm really sad of the way they
For the watch.
ended the series with it. You know, season 6, they just canceled it after that.
Season 7 was fine.
Did you say season 8 was fine?
Season 7 was fine.
Oh, I will kick you under the
No,
table.
8 was bad. First 2 episodes of the season are fine.
If it had ended with Arya killing
The Night
the
King?
dude, yeah.
It just seems like they just got in a hurry the last 3 episodes.
Like,
We're let's
yeah.
just write through this
It's
real
called
fast.
The Longest
fucking get done
Night,
with
and it
it.
was the shortest night. It was 1 hour.
Leah, literally, Ramsay torturing Theon took longer
Yeah.
than them killing the Night King.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey Becky, where can they hear our last words?
What
Oh,
would be
Jesus.
what would be our last words, Ligma? It'd be
Becky
mine.
did it.
Yeah.
God damn it. Angie would say the same thing.
This cock-a-mass
I'd
feels
be
nice.
like, show me your titties one last time.
The doctor knows.
I would say something stupid. I probably will say something stupid. I'll go to say something and I'll mess up my words and they'll be like, what the fuck is she talking about?
I'm actually going to blame Becky's dad for the
Well-
lulls.
He'll probably be dead.
actually-
He's just going to go with it. He's like, yeah, I killed him.
I had a dye put in my body once, and we all know what the dye that they put in your body is.
Sure.
The thing I'm highly allergic to. So I actually died once.
Nice.
And as I'm like dropping to the floor, I say, God damn it. Like, that would have been my last words. God damn it.
So I was in a car that got flipped upside down through the air, and we landed in the woods.
Yeah.
And I always thought I'd say something witty or charming or brilliant when I die. But nope, it was just fuck.
Yeah.
Out loud, real enunciated.
I'm sure that's most people's last words.
Fuck.
It was just fuck! And then we hit the trees, and we did
Yeah.
not die. And then it was like, are you alive? Anything broken? Fuck you. Because I was not driving.
I was about to say,
pissed.
like, that's like God's like second chance for you to do something good. Like, hey, come up with something better, dumbass.
I mean, seriously,
Mhm.
that's he's like, you better think of something.
Yeah, you
witty.
gotta think of something better. You can find us on Facebook at The
Pornhub.
Fruitation Podcast. You can't find us on Pornhub. You can find us on Twitter, The Fruitation.
And
You're also on
Spotify?
YouTube and Twitter. Yeah, Free Rotation. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah
Stitcher.
blah 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 blah.
We be geeks.
Grinder.
Baby geeks. No, you
Listen.
That is
can find Bobby
Cummins.
on Grinder.
No, I'm not gay.
Yet.
He's had 3 ways with 2 dudes, so therefore it's a 3-way, not gay.
Yeah.
I know 2 negatives make a positive. I think if you throw another negative in there, it's negative.
No,
again.
2 dicks make you straight.
That's a lot of dicks to be straight, bro.
I mean, it's a straight line. You think about it when touching.
Do you just sit there at night and wonder, like, why is my brain like this?
Always.
Okay.
From the drugs.
The Ligma variant.
I fucking hope so. Kill me quick.
The Delta variant and the Ligma variant.
Mm.
Somebody's going to ask what it is.
No one's gonna ask what it is.
Somebody ask what it is.
asking.
No
Somebody
one's
ask
gonna
about the Ligma variant. Somebody ask about the Ligma variant.
I'm not going
Please
to.
don't comment on this video and ask about living.
Please
look at
do
the
it.
time we need to end the episode.
Love you, bye.
Ligma variant.
Bye.
Ligma balls.
What's Sigma, Becky?
TheFreeRotation.